Have you ever encountered a woman who commanded respect without demanding it? Who could silence a room not with her words, but with her presence? Who made people second-guess crossing her boundaries before they even tried? Carl Jung, the legendary Swiss psychiatrist, spent his life studying the hidden architecture of the human psyche. And buried within his work lies a profound truth about feminine power that most people completely miss. Today, we're diving deep into the psychology of the awakened woman, someone who has done the inner work, integrated her shadow, and learned to set boundaries not through confrontation, but through pure presence. If you've ever felt like you had to explain yourself, justify your decisions, or fight for respect, this video will change everything. Stay until the end because I'll reveal Jung's concept of the integrated feminine and how it creates an invisible force field that toxic people simply cannot penetrate. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The Invisible Boundary. Let me tell you a story. There was a woman named Sarah who worked in a high-pressure corporate environment. For years, she struggled with coworkers dumping their work on her, her boss calling her during weekends, and friends showing up unannounced expecting her to drop everything. She tried setting boundaries the traditional way. She said no politely. She explained her limits. She even got angry sometimes. Nothing worked. People kept pushing. Then something shifted. Sarah stopped explaining. She stopped justifying. She stopped defending her decisions. Instead, she cultivated what Jung would call psychic wholeness, a state of being so complete within herself that she no longer needed external validation. And suddenly, everything changed. People stopped asking twice. The energy vampires drifted away. Her boss learned to respect her time, not because she became aggressive, but because she became impenetrable. This is what Jung meant when he wrote about individuation, the process of becoming psychologically whole. And for awakened women, this process creates boundaries that operate on a level most people can't even perceive. Let's break down exactly how this works. The energy field theory. Jung believed that every person radiates a psychological aura, not in some mystical sense, but in the way our unconscious mind communicates through body language, tone, micro-expressions, and energetic presence. When a woman has done deep inner work, several things happen. First, she stops leaking energy through approval-seeking, people-pleasing, and self-doubt. This creates what Jung called psychic containment. She becomes like a vessel that holds its own power rather than spilling it everywhere. Second, her unconscious mind and conscious mind align. There's no internal conflict between what she wants and what she thinks she should want. This alignment creates a frequency that others can feel, even if they can't explain it. Third, she integrates her shadow, the rejected, denied parts of herself. This makes her whole, and wholeness is magnetic and intimidating in equal measure. Think of it like this. Most people are like cracked bells. When you strike them, the sound is distorted, uncertain. An awakened woman is like a perfectly cast bell. When life strikes her, she rings clear and true. And that clarity is unmistakable. The mirror effect. Here's where it gets fascinating. Jung discovered that when someone has integrated their shadow and achieved psychological wholeness, they become like a mirror to others. An awakened woman doesn't need to tell someone they're being manipulative. Her presence alone reflects their manipulation back at them. She doesn't need to call out disrespect. Her energy makes disrespectful people uncomfortable with their own behavior. This is the invisible boundary. It's not a wall she builds. It's a truth she embodies. And truth has a way of exposing everything that isn't true. Toxic people, energy vampires, manipulators, they can't stand this mirror effect. It makes them confront parts of themselves they've spent years avoiding. So they naturally retreat often without understanding why. This is why awakened women rarely have to fight for their boundaries. The boundary is simply who they are. Chapter 2. The 4 Pillars of Silent Boundaries. Now let's get practical. How exactly does an awakened woman develop these invisible boundaries? Jung's work gives us 4 essential pillars. Master these, and you'll never have to explain yourself again. Pillar 1. Self-knowledge, the examined life. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. This is perhaps Jung's most famous quote, and it's the foundation of everything. An awakened woman knows herself completely. She's done the uncomfortable work of examining her patterns, her triggers, her wounds, and her shadows. She knows why she attracts certain types of people. She understands her childhood conditioning. She's aware of her defense mechanisms and coping strategies. This self-knowledge creates power because when you understand your own psychology, you can't be manipulated by people who prey on unconscious wounds. Let's say someone tries to guilt trip her. A woman without self-knowledge might feel that guilt automatically and comply to relieve it. But an awakened woman pauses. She recognizes the feeling. She traces it back to childhood patterns, maybe a parent who used guilt as control. She sees the manipulation clearly because she's already done the work of understanding her own emotional landscape. She doesn't need to argue. She simply doesn't respond to the manipulation because she's conscious of it. The boundary is automatic. This is what Jung meant by making the unconscious conscious. It's not intellectual understanding. It's embodied wisdom. Pillar 2. The integrated shadow. Now we enter dangerous territory, the shadow. Jung defined the shadow as everything we've rejected, denied, or repressed about ourselves. All the parts we deemed unacceptable. Our anger, our selfishness, our darkness, our power. Most people spend their entire lives running from their shadow. Awakened women turn around and embrace it. Here's what happens when you integrate your shadow. You stop fearing your own anger, which means you no longer tolerate disrespect to avoid feeling angry. You accept your capacity for selfishness, which means you can prioritize yourself without shame. You acknowledge your darkness, which means you can recognize darkness in others without denial or surprise. Think about the women in your life who command respect. I guarantee they're comfortable with their shadow. They're not trying to be nice all the time. They're not afraid of being called difficult or demanding. They've made peace with their wholeness, light and dark together. This integration creates a presence that's simultaneously warm and formidable, inviting and impenetrable. People can feel this paradox, and it stops them in their tracks. Everyone carries a shadow, and the less it is embodied in the individual's conscious life, the blacker and denser it is. Awakened women have thin shadows because they've brought everything into the light. And that transparency creates a boundary that needs no defense. Pillar 3. Psychological sovereignty. This pillar is about complete self-authority. An awakened woman doesn't need permission. She doesn't need consensus. She doesn't need validation from external sources to know her own truth. Jung called this standing on your own psychological feet. It's the ultimate maturity, the ability to be the primary authority in your own life. Let me be clear about what this isn't. This isn't arrogance or closed-mindedness. An awakened woman can listen, adapt, and collaborate. But the final authority over her life, her choices, her body, her energy, her time, that authority lives within her, not outside her. This creates a boundary because she's not negotiating with people about her fundamental right to self-determination. When someone tries to tell her who she should be, what she should do, how she should feel, she doesn't argue. She doesn't explain. She simply continues being the authority of her own experience. There's a Zen quality to this. It's like water flowing around a rock. The rock can protest all it wants, the water just flows where it flows. This sovereignty is magnetic. People are drawn to those who know themselves and stand in their own authority. But it's also selective. It naturally repels those who need others to be uncertain, dependent, or confused. Pillar 4. Energetic selectivity. The fourth pillar is about conscious choice of where your energy goes. Jung understood that psychic energy libido, as he called it, is finite. You can't give it to everyone and everything without depleting yourself. Awakened women are radically selective about their energy. They don't just set boundaries. With time and attention, they set boundaries. With their emotional, psychological, and spiritual energy. This means they don't take on other people's problems as their own. They don't feel responsible for managing others' emotions. They don't get pulled into drama, chaos, or dysfunction that isn't theirs to fix. They give generously to what aligns with their purpose and values. And they give nothing to what doesn't. The invisible boundary here is that their energy simply isn't available to everyone. It's not personal. It's not mean. It's just true. And when someone encounters this, they can feel it. They can sense that their hooks have nowhere to land. Their demands meet silence. Their manipulation meets clarity. This isn't coldness, it's consciousness. The awakened woman has chosen where her river flows, and she's no longer available to be redirected by everyone who's thirsty. Chapter 3. The body speaks louder than words. Now let's talk about something most people miss. The body's role in setting boundaries. Jung understood that the unconscious mind expresses itself through the body. Every suppressed emotion, every denied truth, every integrated shadow, all of it shows up in how we move, stand, breathe, and occupy space. An awakened woman's body tells a different story than an unawakened one. The grounded presence. First, there's groundedness. Watch an awakened woman walk into a room. Her movements aren't hurried or apologetic. She doesn't make herself smaller. She doesn't rush to fill silence with nervous chatter. She's simply there, present, grounded. This groundedness comes from what Jung called being rooted in the self, capital S, meaning the integrated totality of the psyche. When you're grounded in yourself, your body communicates. I belong here. I have a right to take up space. I'm not looking for permission. This isn't aggressive. It's just settled. And people feel it immediately. They unconsciously adjust their behavior because the body language is clear. This is not someone who can be easily pushed, manipulated, or disrespected. The steady gaze. Let's talk about eye contact. An awakened woman makes steady, unwavering eye contact. Not aggressive staring, but calm, present attention. Jung studied how the eyes reveal the state of the unconscious. When someone is fragmented, uncertain, or people-pleasing, their eyes dart around, seeking approval, reading the room, checking reactions. When someone is integrated and whole, their gaze is steady. They're not performing. They're not monitoring. They're just seeing you clearly. This eye contact is a boundary in itself. It says, I see you fully. I'm not afraid of what I might see. And I'm not trying to manipulate how you see me. I understand you're struggling, and I'm not responsible for fixing it. I wish you the best, and I'm choosing myself. This both and thinking is the hallmark of psychological maturity. And it allows awakened women to set boundaries without hardening their hearts. So we've journeyed through Carl Jung's psychology of the P of the awakened woman who sets boundaries without saying a word. We've explored the invisible boundary that comes from psychological wholeness. We've examined the 4 pillars: self-knowledge, shadow integration, sovereignty, and energetic selectivity. We've looked at how the body communicates boundaries more powerfully than words. We've learned the energetic no, and we've understood how to hold boundaries even when they're tested. But here's the truth that Jung would want you to hear. This isn't about becoming perfect. It's about becoming whole. The journey to awaken femininity isn't a destination you reach. It's a continuous process of integration, of bringing more of yourself into consciousness, of standing more fully in your own truth. Every woman watching this is already on that journey, whether she knows it or not. Every moment you choose yourself, every time you honor your truth, every boundary you set, even the messy, imperfect ones, is part of your individuation process. Jung believed in the human capacity for psychological transformation. He saw that we're not stuck with who we've been. We can become more whole, more integrated, more truly ourselves. And as you do that work, something remarkable happens. The boundaries you once had to fight for become automatic. The respect you once had to demand becomes freely given. The space you once had to defend becomes naturally yours. Not because the world has changed, but because you have. If this video resonated with you, I invite you to share it with another woman who's on this journey. Let's create a community of awakened women who understand that true power isn't loud, it's deep. It isn't aggressive, it's grounded. It isn't about controlling others, it's about complete sovereignty over ourselves. Subscribe if you want more deep dives into Jungian psychology and the path to authentic selfhood. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next exploration. And leave a comment below. What's one boundary you're ready to set without explaining? Let's support each other in this work. Remember, you don't need permission to be whole. You don't need approval to be sovereign. You don't need words to be powerful. You already are. Most people find this level of genuine seeing uncomfortable if they're used to hiding. It's another reason why toxic people naturally drift away from awakened women. They can't hide in the steady light of that gaze. The relaxed body. Here's something subtle but powerful. Awakened women have relaxed bodies even in tense situations. Why? Because tension in the body comes from internal conflict. When you're torn between what you want and what you think you should want, your body holds that tension. When you're integrated, when you're pursued, conscious and unconscious are aligned, there's no internal war. Even when setting a boundary or facing conflict, the body remains relatively relaxed. This confuses people who are used to power dynamics based on aggression and defense. They come in ready to fight, and they encounter someone who's calm, present, and unmoved. That calmness is unnerving. It's a boundary that says, I'm not going to meet your chaos with my chaos. I'm simply going to remain who I am. Spatial awareness. Finally, there's how awakened women manage physical space. They maintain appropriate distance. They don't lean in when someone is being intrusive. They step back when boundaries are being crossed. But here's what's fascinating. They do this naturally, unconsciously. They're not thinking, I need to create physical distance as a boundary. Their body just does it because it's aligned with their psychological boundaries. Jung would say this is the wisdom of the P, unconscious expressing itself through the body. When your inner and outer worlds are integrated, your body becomes a perfect instrument for your truth. People sense this physical boundary even if they don't consciously register it. They feel the subtle but clear message. You can come this close and no closer. Chapter 4. The Energetic No. Alright, let's get into one of the most powerful concepts from Jung's work that applies directly to boundaries. The energetic no. Most people think a boundary requires words, an explanation, a justification, sometimes even an apology. Awakened women know differently. What is the energetic no? The energetic no is a state of being, not a statement. It's the psychological posture of complete non-compliance with what doesn't serve you, without any need to explain or defend that non-compliance. Jung talked about the importance of psychological non-identification, the ability to not get entangled in others' projections, demands, or expectations. When you master the energetic no, You simply don't engage with what isn't aligned. You don't argue against it. You don't explain why you're not doing it. You just don't do it. This is incredibly powerful because it gives nothing for manipulation to grab onto. Think of it this way. Every time you explain, justify, or defend your boundary, you're implicitly suggesting that your boundary needs permission, that if your reasons aren't good enough, you'll have to comply. The energetic no doesn't do this. It's complete in itself. How to cultivate the energetic no. Let me give you practical steps rooted in Jungian psychology. Step 1. Embody the decision fully. Before you communicate anything externally, the decision must be complete internally. This means no ambivalence, no guilt, no second-guessing. Jung emphasized that the unconscious can sense unresolved conflict. When you're uncertain about your boundary, people can feel that uncertainty and they'll push. So the first step is internal resolution. You make the decision. You feel it fully. You accept whatever consequences come with it. Only then do you move forward. Step 2. Release the need to be understood. This is huge. Awakened women don't need everyone to understand or agree with their boundaries. They've released that need. When you need someone to understand, you're giving them power over your boundary. You're saying, my boundary is only valid if you validate it. The energetic no releases this completely. You know your truth. That's enough. Jung wrote about the courage to be disliked, the psychological strength to stand in your truth, even when others disapprove. This courage is essential for the energetic no. Step 3. Stay in your body. When delivering an energetic no, stay grounded in your physical body. Feel your feet on the floor. Notice your breath. Stay present. The tendency when setting boundaries is to dissociate, slightly to float up into your head, into explanation mode, into anxiety about the other person's reaction. Don't. Stay embodied. Let your body communicate the no through your presence. Step 4. Embrace silence. The energetic no often involves strategic silence. You don't fill the awkward pause. You don't rush to smooth things over. You let your no exist in the space without decoration. Jung understood that silence carries psychological weight. In silence, people are forced to sit with their own reactions, their own discomfort, their own projections. An awakened woman is comfortable with that silence. She doesn't rush to rescue anyone from it. The energetic no in action. Let me paint you a picture. Someone asks an awakened woman to do something that doesn't align with her. Maybe it's a friend asking her to lie for them. Maybe it's a family member demanding her time. Maybe it's a colleague trying to dump their work on her. She doesn't launch into reasons why she can't. She doesn't apologize profusely. She doesn't promise to make it up to them later. She simply says, that doesn't work for me. And then silence, presence, groundedness. If they push, but why? Can't you just this once? She might say, I've made my decision, and then again silence. No justification, no defense, no apology. This is the energetic no. It's complete. It's sovereign. It's impenetrable. And here's what happens. Most people back off because there's nothing to argue with. The woman isn't engaging in negotiation. She's not leaving any opening for manipulation. She's simply standing in her truth. Chapter 5. When the boundary is tested. Now, let's be real. Even with all this inner work, boundaries will be tested. Jung was clear that psychological growth doesn't mean the end of challenge. It means you face challenges from a more integrated place. So what happens when someone really pushes? When they don't take the energetic no for an answer? When they try to guilt, shame, or manipulate their way past your boundary? The test is information. First, understand this. When someone tests your boundary, they're giving you valuable information. They're showing you who they are. They're revealing whether they respect your autonomy. They're demonstrating what kind of relationship is actually possible with them. Awakened women don't get offended by this. They observe it. Jung talked about the importance of psychological objectivity, the ability to see reality clearly without being swept away by emotion. When your boundary is tested, stay in that objective observer state. Watch what's happening. Notice the tactics being used. See the person clearly. This isn't cold or heartless. It's wise. The consequence without cruelty. Here's where awakened women truly differentiate themselves. When a boundary is repeatedly violated, there must be a consequence. But the consequence doesn't come from anger, revenge, or punishment. It comes from simple cause and effect. If someone can't respect your time, they get less access to your time. If someone can't honor your emotional boundaries, they get less access to your emotional world. If someone repeatedly proves they're not trustworthy, trust is withdrawn. Jung called this psychological hygiene, the necessary act of protecting your psychic space from what depletes or harms it. The key is that awakened women don't announce these consequences dramatically. They don't threaten. They don't create ultimatums. They simply adjust their behavior based on reality. The person who violated the boundary might not even realize the consequence at first. They just notice that access has quietly shifted. The woman is less available, less open, less engaged. This is the invisible boundary in action again. The consequence isn't verbal, it's energetic and behavioral. Holding the boundary in love. And here's something beautiful that Jung understood. You can hold firm boundaries and still hold love in your heart. Boundaries aren't about cutting people off with hatred. They're about honoring what's real. An awakened woman can say no to someone and still wish them well. She can create distance from someone and still hold compassion for their struggles. She can end a relationship and still honor what was good in it. This is the integration. Jung spoke of the ability to hold multiple truths simultaneously. I love you, and I cannot allow this in my life.